to go ahead and get started. The meeting is now called to order with Councilman Edwards going to open, followed by with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. May we all stand, please.
Let's pray. Well, gracious Heavenly Father, we just again come tonight thanking you for the many blessings that you've given to us. Thank you for giving us protection and the help that we enjoy, and just continue to watch over us. Give us wisdom tonight to make decisions for our city and the citizens that we live in. Just thank you for all you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Light, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Hendricks. Here. Councilmember Griffin. Here. Councilmember Eubanks.
Present.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Oliver.
Here.
Council President Simmons.
Here.
Madam President, we have all 6 council members in attendance, and therefore a quorum is present.
Thank you. At this time, we'll get the approval of the agenda as it is.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Eubanks, second by Mr. Griffin. All in favor.
6-0, motion carries.
Next, we'll have a message from the mayor.
I just have one item this evening. I have a proclamation. I'd like to ask Chelsea Lawson with the Kramer Center Children's Advocacy Center to join me. Proclamation. Whereas human sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery and occurs when an adult or a child is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exported through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of sexual exploitation. And whereas human sex trafficking is growing throughout the United States, thriving in cities across geographic and socio-demographic variability, and whereas the criminal enterprise of human trafficking is second only to the illegal drug trade in terms of the speed of its growth and being among the most lucrative, and whereas human sex trafficking is a public health issue that impacts individuals, families, and communities, and whereas the risk and prevalence of human trafficking is greater now than ever in person and online, in industries such as restaurants, cleaning services, construction, and factories, and by strangers or someone they know, including partners, parents, and other family members. And whereas due to its isolating nature, many individuals remain unaware that trafficking is a threat to their neighborhoods, families, and children. The first step in eliminating human trafficking in our community is education. We must work diligently to ensure that all frontline industries, responders, educators, and parents are aware of this issue, know how to spot it and how to report it, working together to bring victims to safety and punishment to the perpetrators. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Andy Betterton, on behalf of the City of Florence and its citizens, in support of this endeavor, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2025 as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and encourage all citizens of the City of Florence to start by being informed of this growing problem, be vigilant to report suspicious activity, and work towards solutions to end trafficking in all of its forms in our community.
Mayor Betterton, thank you, the City Council. On behalf of our community, the Alabama Anti-Human Trafficking Alliance, and all those fighting against human trafficking, including the Kramer Children's Center, One Place of the Shoals, Safe Place, and other organizations that fight human trafficking in our area. We want to thank the mayor and city council for recognizing January as Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Preventing, recognizing, and responding to human trafficking and the trafficking of children cannot be accomplished alone. Rather, it takes partnerships across all our community to keep everyone safe from online predators, sex, and labor trafficking. Due to its isolating nature, many individuals remain unaware that trafficking is a threat to our neighborhoods, families, and children. However, the internet gives criminals and predators easy access to our young people and children with new apps, games, and websites popping up daily. First responders and child-serving agencies are seeing a huge increase in children and teens being targeted by online predators and becoming victims of sextortion. National Human Trafficking Prevention Month provides an opportunity to increase awareness of the signs of human trafficking and to share the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and I'll give it to you. It's 888-373-7888, where one can report a tip or ask for help. Today's proclamation recognizes the vital role we all play in combating human trafficking, including offering appropriate programs and activities throughout 2025 to help parents, families, schools, churches, and all parts of our community recognize the signs of potential danger and how to respond. In closing, again, thank you for taking this public stance against trafficking. Together, we can help our community become safer and truly trafficking-free. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. At this time, do we have any reports from any department heads? Any standing committees?
The utilities committee met. I misplaced my notebook. It had some minutes in it. I didn't find it till this afternoon. So I'll have it next meeting. I'm sorry. I left it blank somewhere.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll have the minutes. But one thing we discussed is on the agenda tonight, the sewer cost sharing fund. That was discussed, and Tad explained that to us. And we moved to bring it forward to council.
Okay. That's it? Thank you. We have one, the Finance Committee, we met on Friday, January the 17th. Myself, Jackie Hendricks, Blake Edwards, Shana Balch, Steve Eason was there, Mayor Betterton, Chief Anderton, David Carson, and Wave 31 News, Ms. Page. And we discussed about the appropriations for SBI and also for the Shoals Theater. It was requested that they provide 3 years of financials. SBI had provided one, and Shoals Theater at that time still hadn't provided any. So at that point, we did not move forward. They were gonna reach back out to them and ask them again, but no money was approved for the appropriations at that time. And just a side note, I know that we did receive SBI, I think it was today, we did receive their other years. Also, Station 4, Chief Anderton went over Station 4 with us, sharing where we were with that. And Station 4 is located out there on Huntsville Road. It was built in 1964. The bids did come back in. The lower bid was from H&N Construction, which is a local contractor. And there was some more information that was needed in regards to that. Mr. Eason didn't have everything that we needed to move forward. So at this time, it's in a pending stage to get the information that Mr. Eason needed before we move forward on any type of approval as far as a yes or no to be able to approve from the financial committee if we're gonna move it forward to the full council. So that's all I have at this time. Meeting was adjourned. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing. Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, President Simmons. The public hearing tonight is to consider the proposed rezoning of .78 acres located at 3815 Florence Boulevard, and this comes at the request of the property owner, Martin Mobley. As I mentioned in the work session, was a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Commission. This will clear up a nonconformity, so it does, it is congruent to our comprehensive plan. We didn't receive any comments, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
No questions from the council? Okay. At this time,
Would you like to open the floor
yes, ma'am.
for comments?
At this time, the floor is now open. We'll start to my right if anybody want to speak for or against it. Public hearing? No. In the middle? To my left? Ms. Bailey, there is no comments.
I would recommend that you close the public hearing. Thank
Okay,
you.
it is now closed. At this time, Mr. Lighty, you can go ahead and, I'm sorry. We'll have business from the floor pertaining to the consent and the regular agenda with a 5-minute time limit, starting to my right.
Short people here. Yeah, my name's David Carson. I live in Florence. And yeah, I have a few things to say about item 12D on the regular agenda. I believe it's on the regular agenda part. This is the $500,000 being handed out to UNA. Another $500,000, I might say, just being handed out to UNA. It was one of the few items that had zero discussion during business meeting. Literally, you could hear crickets when the council had a time to respond to that, though this is the biggest item on the agenda. So yeah, is UNA a city department? I'm just wondering, is UNA a city department? Because it sure does seem so. Some say they're more important than a city department because at least department heads have to come up here and personally ask for money. UNA doesn't even have to. Is there anyone in the audience in UNA? Anyone? No, you just hand them money. Here's $500,000. You know, it's ridiculous. This is pure corruption. Is what it is. This is pure corruption. We got 2 people on the council who are employed by UNA. I believe most, if not all of y'all, are alumni of UNA. And I guess just from your voting record, you probably think that UNA can do no wrong and deserves infinite taxpayer money. Got news for you. Most of the population in this town really don't care about UNA. I know I don't. I have no reason to. I didn't go there. I also wanted to say that most of the students, the foreign students and mainly foreign and out-of-town students, they're not going to be voting this year. They're not going to be voting. They're going to get their degrees and leave town. That's what they're going to do. And so yeah, why are we giving another $500,000 to UNA? I know during this week, I was, at the finance committee, and it was good that some of the council members questioned the little $25,000 to the theater and stuff like that. That's a good start. Maybe consider a little bit before you hand it out. But that was cute. This is the real corruption right here. The $500,000. Not a single thing was said about that. Not a single question was this. It's unquestioned that UNA deserves our money. They're not a department of the city. Okay, they're an outside entity. They're doing fine. Have you walked through UNA? It's the nicest neighborhood in town. They're doing fine on money. They do not need our money. They don't need $500,000 every year from the taxpayers. If they cannot sell their diplomas and make, through tuition and book sales, then they're not a viable business. They do not deserve to be asking for money, and if they can't stay above water, then so be it. They need a new business model then, because that's what it is. It is a business. What else I'll say here? They don't ask during the finance committee. That one of the reasons why it was questioned whether or not we give money to the theater or not is they didn't provide 3 years of financial records. Light bulb went off in my head after the meeting. I asked the chief financial officer. I was like, "Did UNA have to provide any financial records for the large sums that we give them?" She's like, "No." Basically, she said no. said something about some type of like memorandum of understanding. I don't get it, but I know they didn't provide information. Do we get a seat on the board of UNA at all? Do we get anything from this money besides alumni getting a pat on the back, and the people who are employed on the council get to keep their jobs? Do we get anything else other than that? This is pure corruption. That's all I got to say. What else is there to say?
Thank you. Anyone else to my right?
Yeah, Michael White, 4704 Chisholm Road, Florence, Alabama. I can't add a lot to what David said about 12D, except, for one thing, let's just read the resolution. This is the fourth time it has appeared. I don't have the dates memorized, and I didn't bother with doing my due diligence because anybody can go on Facebook and read all about it. But here's the resolution. It says the university plays a vital role in the educational, culture, and economic well-being of the city of Florence, which I agree. A new computer science and mathematics building will bring more students to the university and will greatly improve the quality of computer science and mathematics study available. Agree with that too. Then there's section 2, and then section 3, therefore is authorized by the Alabama legislature in section 1619.2 of the Code of Alabama 1975 as amended. The city hereby appropriates $500,000 to the University of North Alabama to assist with the construction of a new computer science and mathematics building. Okay. In 2023, they did the ribbon cutting on this science and mathematics building. Mayor Betterton got up today and said something a little bit different, that this was like a payment plan. We're doing the last, or we're doing 4 out of 5, I believe is what he said. So we're paying $2 million toward the computer and mathematics building. I haven't read that anywhere. I haven't seen that in any resolutions. I'm quite familiar with the resolutions in the city of Florence. I've studied them. I went back and tried to find it. I haven't found that anywhere. I don't know, Mr. Musgrove may can tell me where they are, but I haven't found where we dedicated $2 million to the university to build to help toward building a science and mathematics building, and we were going to do it in payment plans. What's the deal on him giving or pledging $2 million to the stadium? Are we doing that in payment plans also? That's number one, but I can't add anything to what David said. He made an excellent speech. Here's my other resolution I want to bring up, the consent agenda Q, resolution to approve a contract with Shoals Pressure Washing to provide labor, equipment, materials, and incidental necessary to pressure wash tennis courts at Cost Creek Parkway in the amount not to exceed $28.50 to be paid from budgeted funds, account number, and I'm not going to read it, sponsored by Bill Jordan, which is not that much and it's not that big a deal, but here's my question. I actually tried to investigate it, suddenly mysteriously disappeared, but on one of my Facebook pages, I did have a gentleman that said he owned a pressure washing company that went over there to that old parking deck and pressure washed it. And he said it was the roughest thing he had ever seen in all the years he had done pressure washing. It had not been maintained. It looked like that's the first time it had ever been done. But that being aside, okay, can we not buy some pressure washers? Do we not have city employees on our maintenance staff that would be available to do pressure washing of our courts, our buildings, our this, our that, our parking lots? Why are we paying out every time we need to pressure wash?
You have 1 minute remaining.
That's all I needed. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone in my middle?
Okay, I'm starting my own timer.
Okay, I'm Rivers Aransky again, and I wanted to take this time to make the closing arguments for my map. So here is the summary, if y'all choose to go with my map. It's just 5 slight trades from my map to NACOD's is the only difference. District 1 would get Cherry Hill homes, which would increase the amount of African American voters in District 1. District 3 gets a few blocks north of Hermitage Drive that's currently in District 4, and it makes the lines of District 3 cleaner. District 5 keeps the left side of the Norwood Park neighborhood, which is already in District 5, but would move to District 1 under NACOD's. District 6 gets the Maple Ridge subdivision, which is currently in District 5, and then District 4 gets the Seville Place and Deerfield apartment complexes that are currently in District 6. So very slight changes, but with those changes, my map increases the amount of African Americans in District 1 by about 3%. And here's why I think that my map should be the one adopted. If a court sometime before the election looks at NACOD's map, assuming it's the one that's passed, and says there's not enough African American representation in District 1, the court can redraw the districts however they want to. And so like 2 months before the election, it's possible that a court just redraws the districts. And if that happens, a court doesn't necessarily have to look at, maintaining the precincts or keeping Board of Education and council members in their current districts, which is one thing that I looked at and made sure to do. And there were other ways that I looked at, making District 1 like have a higher African American population. Like for one thing, and this was a suggestion I got from actually Councilman Hendricks, I looked at Ridgeway and I looked at Lindenberg and potentially putting those in District 1. But the problem is if I did it that way, it would cut Mr. Hendricks off from his district. And so my map, and I spent, after making my map, which I spent 5 hours on, I've spent a couple weeks now reviewing my work, and my map is the best proposal that I can come up with that gives the highest amount of African American voters to District 1, and at the same time keeps everybody in their district, which I know is very important to y'all. And again, as a voter of this city, like 2 months before the election, I don't want a court to come in and change the lines. Like, election's in August of this year, and in June, if my precinct got moved, it's like, well, where do I vote? And so I do hope y'all will take that into consideration when deciding which map to adopt. And I'll say with both maps, my neighborhood would stay the same. But I did this map not for me. I did this for my African American friends that live in the city and for President Simmons, because I share some of the same concerns as her. My map, I believe, is the best proposal for keeping District 1 with a high as percentage as possible of African American voters and everyone in their district. And with that, I yield my time. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the middle?
Thank you, Madam President. Billy Ray Simpson, Florence, Alabama. Rivers is a very smart person. Not that you all are not. But we all got our gifts. And we try to put all those gifts together, not just our council, but it's always good to listen to the input from citizens that are concerned about their city and their city leadership also. I don't like this map, this ordinance, for the very thing that Rivers said. I don't even know why we're voting for another map in the first place, other than somebody gave a lame excuse, and I know it wasn't Mr. Musgrove. Now, Mr. Musgrove ain't had nothing to do with this. This comes from somebody else. Mr. Musco didn't have anything to do with coming up with this idea. It's a very sneaky idea, all of a sudden. After all these years, now all of a sudden, they got to have more white folks in the district than black. It ain't gonna work. Not for Miss Simmons. But one day she might pass the mantle to somebody like me. Ain't gonna win. But y'all need to look around. It's just got one black soldier on the council. And we need to keep things representative of our city. Okay, let's go to 12B. Request for opinion. Please don't go to the Attorney General of Alabama for nothing. Not for us. Well, we need something from him, and nothing is broken. This is the day for complaints. Okay, I'm sorry. Why we want to go to him for an opinion on what we're doing? If it's not broken, how you gonna fix it? We already got a remedy for bad weather. Oh, that was the mayor. No, that was Mr. Mosher. They put you up for that too, okay. But also, 11B, contract with homeless care. We got more money going to Northwest Regional Airport. And I'm looking at homeless people everywhere, freezing to death outside. This is a shame. $10,000? Come on. Come on. $10,000 for all these homeless folks that's freezing to death. They got mental problems. I talk to them all the time. They got mental problems. I talk to them. I sit down and talk to them and ask them questions. What happened? Most of them got mind problems. Anybody that want to stay out there in the wintertime got mind problems. What are we doing to the humans? We love animals, but what about the humans? Jesus never said, love the animals.
You have 1 minute remaining.
No, he's talking about humans. Love humans. Not just Americans, not just white, black. Love humans. Jesus came to speak to humans. He didn't care whether they're gay or straight or black or white. He talked to all of them. They're humans. And you ought to be human. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the middle? To my left. All right, Mr. Lighty, if you would read the consent agenda.
All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Florence City Council for reading and study, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request.
Do you hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
6-0, motion carries.
Now the regular agenda.
Regular agenda item A, ordinance to approve new voting district lines for the upcoming municipal elections to be held on August 26, 2025, sponsored by Bob Lottie and Bill Musgrove. This item did not receive a unanimous vote for immediate consideration at the January 7th, 2025 meeting. A vote for adoption is all that is needed at this time.
Do I hear a motion for the adoption?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Mr. Edwards. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Bill. You're fine.
Normally, when I say I had a lot of calls, it's 3. This received over 20 calls about this. The district that will be affected the most is District 3. It was the smallest district, and it's gonna become it's gonna grow the most. And of all my calls, none were for it, and all were against it. And so my voting will reflect the information that I received from my constituents.
I would like to add also, Pastor, this is not something that the council just on a whim decided to do. This is required by law to, after every census, which we just, came out of one, we're required by law to balance out the numbers. My district, for instance, I think had probably 1,200 more than District 3. And so that's what this was about, was trying to balance out the numbers. It wasn't just us deciding as a council, hey, let's change the district lines. Because I'm losing the most out of this. I'm losing a lot of people. But that's what this is about. So I don't want that to be confused with something sneaky going on.
I think it's also important to point out that we do still maintain a minority-majority district. And I can only speak for myself, but that was really important to me, that we managed the expectations of all residents, whether they vote or not, that we have a majority-minority district, and we still do, and that was really important. And furthermore, I think it's been a long time coming from NACOG to get this presentation to us, and I'm grateful for the work that's gone into it. And River, I thank you for your work as well to get that information and present it the way you did.
Thank you. My comments, and I've made them on numerous occasions in regards to it, I wish we could keep the 50% to have that pretty much guaranteed majority of district, but looks like we don't. No, I've talked to Mr. Musgrove, Mr. Lighty, NACOG, River. I've had multiple conversations with him trying to figure all this out. And yes, he said anywhere from 1% to 3%. I've even talked to the management at Cherry Hill to see how many African American that was over there, to see in any kind of way that this could happen to keep that majority. I do think that it is needed. It should be. I've done all that I know to do. I've talked with many the citizens, constituents within District 1, white and black. So it's not a race thing, it's a right thing with me. So I've done my due diligence, I've done my best, and so you'll see it in my vote. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? All in favor of it?
Okay, I'm sorry, raise your hands again. 1, 2, 3. 4 votes for,
Opposed.
2 opposed, motion carries 4-2. Item B is a resolution to approve a request by the City Council of the City of Florence, Alabama, an opinion from the Honorable Steve Marshall, Attorney General of the State of Alabama, sponsored by Bill Musgrove.
Do you hear a motion for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hendricks, second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor of the motion?
6-0.
Do you hear a motion for the adoption?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Ms. Eubanks. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I mentioned during the work session that I proposed a 3-day safety period where when the roads are closed, that employees would not have to use their vacation days, and I still adhere to that.
Any additional questions? I'm sorry, discussion?
I think that is something worthy to take a look at and see if it's something the city can do. once we get the opinion back.
I agree with Councilman Oliver and Councilman Griffin that something needs to be done, that when we do have the inclement weather and roads are impassable, that we can do something that employees would be able to be paid without having to use their vacation time. So hopefully, speak with the Attorney General that the appropriate parties, entities that's supposed to handle this can get this right, that we can take care of our employees, because safety is certainly always important, as well as keep the city functioning. If there's any other discussion, if not, all in favor of the motion?
5 votes for, 1 opposed.
One opposed.
Motion carries 5-1. Item C is an ordinance to approve rezoning of .78 plus or minus acres located at 3815 Florence Boulevard from R1 Single Family Residential to B2 General Business as requested by Martin Mobley, sponsored by Melissa Bailey.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Eubanks, second by Mr. Griffin. All in favor of the motion?
6-0.
Do I hear a motion for the adoption?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Mr. Hendricks. Any discussion? Not all in favor of the motion?
6-0, motion carries. Item D is a resolution to approve appropriation funding to the University of North Alabama, the amount of $500,000 to assist with the construction of a new computer science and mathematics building, sponsored by Mayor Betterton and the City Council.
Do I hear a motion for immediate consideration?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor of the motion?
6-0.
Do I hear a motion for the adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hendricks, second by Mr. Edwards. Any discussion?
Yes, let me add, Mr. Carson made some remarks a moment ago, and he and I have talked about this before. We've had several discussions about it, and we differ naturally on many things about this. I've always been one that believed in investing in UNA because I believe it comes back to us. I've always said when UNA grows, I really feel like our city grows. And the amount of tax dollars they generate is astronomical, especially when school is in session. I do agree with him on one thing. It would have been nice if someone had been here tonight from UNA. So I'm going to chastise them just a little bit. So we're about to award them $500,000, and it'd be good if someone was here to say thank you. I know they appreciate it, but I do agree that we hand out a lot of money throughout the year to some very deserving causes. And I think people have gotten a little bit taken it for granted that we're going to, just automatically do it. So I know UNA appreciates it, and I'm taking a little hit at them there just a little bit. So, but I really do believe this comes back to us many times in years to come with what they're doing at UNA right now.
Any additional discussion?
Yes, ma'am. This is not a hit at UNA. We had a work session here the other day, and the question was asked, do we have the funds available to tear down the parking deck? And the answer was yes. And then the next day we found out we were, I'm going to use an approximate number, $250,000 short. That may be a little higher, a little low. And we discussed an annexation building that I made a lot of noise about it, $2 million. And I think we're gonna fall short of that because I feel certain it's gonna be appraised closer to 6. And there are ways to get that money, but we are still looking at a shortfall. And so as much as I appreciate UNA, I just can't vote this time to give them $500,000. I really believe that we, as a city, could use that $500,000 in the 6 to 12 months in a very creative and useful way.
Any additional discussions?
Yes, being that we share that district with UNA, I would hate to think what the city of Florence would look like if UNA were not part of our community and, more importantly, part of our economy. And I feel like we have to invest in those things. There are people in my district that do not like UNA, and I hear from them frequently, and I have to try to explain the best that I can what we get in return for UNA. And as far as this going to the math and science building and it being completed, deferred funding is a very common thing with large-scale projects, and this one's no different, and I assume we will see similar things with other projects in the future, so this is not a one-off thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
I have one more comment. If I'm not mistaken, the economic impact from UNA is $380 million a year, which is outstanding. So this is not I dislike UNA. This is I think I need to pay my tuition in the city before I pay someone else's tuition.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? As far as my stand with it, yes, I am an employee there. I've shared mine several times, so I'm not going to continue to rehash it every time this comes up. So with that being said, all in favor of the motion? Any abstentions? Any opposed?
4 votes for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. Motion carries. Item E is a resolution to approve a contract with Tomlin Excavating Company Incorporated to provide labor, equipment, materials, and incidentals necessary for the demolition of the municipal parking deck located at 116 West Tennessee Street and properly dispose of the debris for the city of Florence in the total contract amount not to exceed $774,260.85, sponsored by Mayor Betterton.
Do I hear a motion for the adoption?
Yeah. Does this have to be made
It's not,
with a motion?
we're not time for the questions yet, discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It has to be, because this was last time, because this was last time it went into immediate consideration, it has to be, it was a 3-3, which was Councilwoman Eubanks, myself, and Mr. Griffin. The motion has to come from one of us 3. So, now, again, do I have a motion?
I'm sorry. For me, is it right?
No, just for the motion. We did immediate consideration last time, so it's, yeah.
No discussion until that is motion.
We don't have a motion.
Okay.
So we can't, no discussion right here.
Thank you.
We're to Mr. Musgrove, he says no.
It dies. It didn't, it essentially, it didn't get brought up, so it can't be discussed.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we don't have any general business, no board appointments, and now we'll have the business from the public with a 5-minute time limit, starting to my left. To my right? To my right. Let's change it up, never know.
I can keep up. All right, testing. Yeah, that went about as well as I thought it was going to. Thanks for at least abstaining something. Katrina, I'm talking to Katrina about the 12D, the UNA vote. I guess I'll talk about this, even though it was just passed, I still got some things to say. I think this is obvious corruption still. My statement still stands. Let's talk about that word corruption. I think some people in the population, and maybe some people sitting up here, maybe have a misunderstanding of what that word really means. That doesn't really have to mean that something is illegal. Corruption can be legalized. It's more of an ethical thing. Speaking of ethics, it's been brought up that the ethics board said it's okay for employees to vote, that their employers get handouts whenever they're council members. This ethics board, I mean, that's obviously that's some 1984 stuff, like don't believe your lying eyes, like don't believe in common sense. If you're voting for your employer to get money, I mean, you're getting something out of it one way or another. I mean, you're not going to get a memorandum. The company is not going to put it in writing that they're going to fire you if you're not going to do what, vote the way that they want to vote. The reason why they probably hired you to begin with. That's not how corruption works. There's a term. I'm kind of going off on tangent, but I got my time here. Some people use the word conspiracy theorist as like a insult, but it's actually just not. It's, if you boil it down, it's very simple. People conspire. Everyone conspires. It's human nature. And there's going to be a certain amount of corruption in any kind of organization, in any individual. There are corrupt elements of myself that I try to work on. I try to fight, so I can try to be the most decent person I can be, but I'm also a human being. So it is what it is. The reason I'm saying this is I want to hear, I don't ever hear the word corruption mentioned publicly by any council member or anybody who works for the city in the city government. If I'm not mistaken, I wasn't really paying attention. I was doing other things, but last election, I think some of y'all mentioned something about fighting corruption. There's corruption in every institution. So I want to ask now, has any of you fought any corruption during your time here? Is there any of you that will even admit that there is even corruption going on in our local government? Which there is, which is inevitable. It's all about a degree. It's all about degrees on whether or not it's tolerable or not. Will any of you admit that there is corruption going on? And will you tell us what are you doing about it? Election season's coming on. I'm not voting for anyone whose number one priority isn't dealing with corruption. If you're not dealing with corruption, you don't get my vote, period. The rest is just fixing potholes and rubber stamping documents as far as I'm concerned. Anyone can do that, seriously. You can have a 15 IQ and rubber stamp anything the mayor puts in front of you. Anyone can do that. That's not why we have representatives. We have representatives to keep things in check. We have representatives so we get to vote and have people up here that can keep things in check. That's the way I look at it. I don't know. That's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to my right?
Yeah, Mike White, 4704 Chisholm Road, Florence, Alabama. I have never really called out any council person by name. Or I hope I haven't while I've been standing at this podium. Thanks to Mr. Carson, I can go back and watch every recording I ever spoke at. And I did. I never called out any, I have had problems with the decisions of each one of you, but I've never called you out by name in public from a podium. Last meeting, I was name checked and told that I was a coward for not immediately saying I was going to run for a city council position. I actually just got up here and made a statement that we needed more transparency in government. And it all related to the the parking deck situation over there. For some reason, there's been a couple on this council that have gotten very involved in that parking deck situation. I don't know what their interest is, but it seems like more than just, because in some cases, it's not even in their district. But yet they really decided that they're gonna take the bull by the horns on that parking deck situation. Okay, like I said, I was name checked. I'm called a coward. Told that I was not a backseat driver, I was gonna say that, an armchair quarterback. And it was alluded to football references. I'll tell you what's bravery as far as talking in city government goes. Ms. Elizabeth Romine, she went to jail for standing here and not backing down. I admire that woman greatly. They tried their best to get Ms. Romine to shut up and sit down. She wasn't gonna do it. That was way before Facebook, live streams. The mayor couldn't knock her out then, because she was gonna talk, and it was on Channel 3 on Comcast, and it was must-see TV. This town at 5 o'clock, you made sure you got to a TV set and cut it on. I know most of my friends and relatives did anyway. Over the years, there have been several. I'm not going to go through all the names because I'm not going to name check people, but we've even had people that were a doctor, I forgot his name, that was a councilman. He used to get up and talk a lot. You know, the right to dissent is a citizen's right that should never be impeded and should never be questioned by any elected leader, no matter what position they're in my opinion. I would like to thank some people on the council. I'd like to thank Ms. Eubanks. She does such a good job on this council of asking questions. I watch every one of the meetings that David records. When she's on a committee, you might know that in that meeting, there's gonna be a lot of questions asked, and Ms. Eubanks is gonna get answers. I'd like to thank Ms. Simmons. The last meeting, when they didn't present the documentation, and there were some on the committee that were just trying to run all over each other. Well, I'll get a hold of them, I'll get the documentation. And she said, look, why do we have to beg these people to give us documentation to give them money? You know, I've never heard of any such thing.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I figured I would. Let me get to Mr. Griffin real quick. Mr. Griffin, I owe you an apology, sir. I've said some pretty rough things about you on Facebook page, and I take back every one of them. You have been a shining light on what a council person should be that was looking out for the interest of their district and the citizens. And thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone in the middle? River?
You know, this is interesting because I wasn't sure what Mr. White was going to finish on, but I also have a comment relating to Mr. Griffin. So during the discussion, Mr. Griffin, and I believe this was regarding item 12B, Mr. Griffin made a comment, and I understand this isn't a proposal because it would have to be worked out and, you know, an ordinance would have to be drafted before it could be passed. But Mr. Griffin made a comment about giving city employees, you know, 3 severe weather days relating to the snow when the roads are impassable. And there's something else I'd like to add to that. I've been a storm spotter for the National Weather Service going on 5 years now. And one thing that was talked about heavy in the certification that I had and in the recertification I had was tornado season. And as many of you may remember, we had about a year ago a tornado that hit our neighbors in Leeton over in Colbert County. And it wasn't but a couple of years ago that we had the Black Ridge Trail Golf Course in Plantation Springs tornado that touched down here in Florence in District 6. And also that tornado did a little bit of damage to the District 6 fire station. And I would like to add to what Mr. Griffin said, that any ordinance that gives employees severe weather days. They should be allowed to take the severe weather days for both snow, sleet, and for tornadoes, because over the years, we've had more and more tornadoes. They only happen a few days a year, but we've had 2 now hit very close to home, one of which hit the city limits, even though it was a weak tornado. I'm very grateful that day that nobody died. I know there was one pet that passed away during that tornado, and I'm very sorry about that. But you never know, this April and May, when they get here, you never know if we're going to be dealing with no tornadoes or dealing with what Tuscaloosa had back in 2011, where they had an EF5. And so I support giving employees severe weather days if that's something that the Alabama Constitution allows for. And I hope that we will draft the ordinance so that they can take a day off when tornadoes are forecast, as well as snow and sleet. And with that, I yield my time. And thank you, Mr. Griffin, for making that suggestion. That's a good suggestion, and I'm glad that you're looking out for public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the middle?
Bless America. They really need it. As a theologian, person that studies the Bible, I understand before God gave man dominion, that he gave him first image. He created him in his image. God is love. But Adam fell from the image of God, yes, he still had dominion. And ever since that, the Adam family has been corrupt. Political system corrupt. Criminal justice system is corrupt. The religious system was corrupt, still is. Social economic system corrupt. That's why God sent Jesus. He didn't send him with a new religion, he sent him with a new government. And when you read the government in the Bible, that's the new Constitution. It's a new government coming, a righteous government, not an unrighteous government. The world is still corrupt. But that corruption can be flushed with new leadership. But it looks like we're going backwards instead of forward. But they are good people, black, white, short, tall, rich, poor. But they have to have image, character. You can't be a felon. Can't be a criminal, a liar, a cheat. And unless this world gives leadership to those that have image, we'll always have corruption, especially when they outnumber those that are righteous. That's why when a person is good, they don't stay in government long. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the middle? To my left. At this time, we will have council members' reports with a 5-minute time limit, starting with Ms. Eubanks.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons, I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a very, very bitter cold night out there tonight, and I'm very appreciative for all of you who are here with us in person, especially. It's very cold, and you could have stayed home where it was warmer, but you are here, and I thank you for it. Thank you, Mr. White. You've been in those meetings, and you've seen and you've heard. My mother would tell you that I was burdened with a curious mind. So there it is. And I believe she's right, and I thank my 2 grandmothers for bringing that out of me. You know, since we last had our meeting last week, and we had the special called meeting, thank you, Ms. Simmons, for that, we have had a lot of things happen in this city that have been very traumatic and very, very distressing, including what happened at the police department last week that involved a gentleman who was in need of some help, and it turned into a tragedy. Then earlier today, our street department, they experienced some tragedy with a car wreck. And so those are things that the inner workings of the city that are vast and almost unknowable in those ways. But at the end of the day, and the point I'm making is that we are all people, and we are doing the best we can with the information we have to make the decisions. And I happen to be up here right now. It will not be that way forever. And I'm grateful for it. My family will be grateful for it. But it is that way for now, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear both sides, even when I don't agree with it. But we can all live and we can all learn, but we can all remember at the end of the day, we are all humans, literally just doing the best that we can to get through. And I think a big part of that is kindness. And so I appreciate that when I see it in other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards.
I want to commend the lady that was here earlier about the CASA, I believe, about the human trafficking. That was a discussion, or a lady came a couple of years ago, I think, and introduced that to us, and I didn't realize it would be a problem here in Florence, but it is. It's something that we need to be aware of. And here again, if somebody sees something that's not quite right, please call the authorities, because it's a very serious offense, and there are people out there that just look at to take people. So watch out for that. The other thing I just want to mention, I know we've talked about the parking deck and we've discussed it and all that. If we're not going to tear it down, I think we need to put some type of fencing around it with no trespassing signs to keep people out of it. Because we were all worried about a chunk of concrete falling hit them on the head. If somebody's walking, cutting through there, and a chunk falls over and hits them, what's the difference? So I propose, if we're not going to take it down, to put some kind of security fence, I don't know, 10 foot, whatever it is, with no trespassing signs on it, to keep people out of it in case somebody does climb it and gets hurt. Then I don't know if the city would still be responsible, I don't know. At least we've made an effort to do something. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Oliver?
Yeah, I'll start with that as well. I guess it's been 2 or 3 months ago, I'm not sure the time, but all 6 of us approved the winning bid of $774,000 and some change with Tomlin Excavating to demolish the parking deck. And then it was the chicken stew, I believe, just before Christmas, when we got word that the parking deck was extremely hazardous and needed to be closed. And Ms. Simmons called a special meeting that afternoon, and again, all 6 of us voted to close the parking deck because it had become dangerous to citizens. We were given an extension because of whatever reason we didn't go forward with it till January 31st, which is now coming up real soon. Looks like we're probably going to have to rebid this thing if we go forward with it. And I forgot one other thing. Last Tuesday we had another special meeting where we all 6 agreed we wanted to build the new city hall where the current parking deck is. So either we're going to have to build the new city hall on top of the parking deck, or we're going to have to tear it down. So I'm just really, and I know there's some concerns about some money that we were, I think, $250,000 short of what we needed to do the demo, but that pales in comparison to what we're going to be out in a lawsuit if someone goes in there and gets hit. If one of these guys go in and and do an investigation of the deck and get hit in the head with a piece of concrete, they're gonna own the city. We're gonna have to pay out millions of dollars. So, and I am getting calls from people that, and for the life of me, I don't know why they're doing it, but they're like, you know, I went through the deck and I took a look for myself and I made pictures. With that, I agree with Mr. Edwards. We're going to have to invest in some fencing, which is probably going to cost a lot of money, several $1,000s, to put up around that, because the little yellow barriers that are over there and the plastic tape and all that stuff, it's not keeping people out of there. So if we're really serious about saving lives and people not getting hurt, then we need to really fence that thing off so people can't get in there, and then decide, I guess, in the future if it's, you know, savable or what. But I'm just really confused why we keep hanging on to that deck that we have all agreed in private and in here needs to come down. So I think we need to have that discussion sooner than later about what he said, putting up some type of sturdy fence to keep people out of there, because they're still going in there. Every day I hear from someone. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Hendricks?
Well, I too would like to have the deck brought down. I hoped we could do it tonight, but when I was a no one pressured me to change my mind, and I still want to extend the same courtesy to you three, to allow you to get there in your own time. I think we will get there, but we all have to get there in our own time, and I do understand that. A couple of things I've got. I want to come in. Time's gone by so quickly. I think it was after the last meeting, but the street department and Brad and his staff at EMA for all the fine work they did getting our roads open back up, all our first responders, and also to you, Mr. Griffin, for going the next week and feeding breakfast to our street department crews. That was very kind of you. Glad you did that. Thank you. My thoughts and prayers are also with Florence Police Department for the tragedy that they had, as well as the auto accident this morning in which someone lost their life. Those are always tragic things when you see them pop up. Kudos to President Simmons for last Tuesday's meeting. I thought we had a very good meeting, and I think you ran that meeting very well, so thank you for that. I think we moved forward in a lot of ways and are continuing to move forward. We have with us tonight in all our folders, I'd like to read these real quickly. We have 6 new business licenses from December 2024. 7 Brew is the first one on there. I drove by it Sunday afternoon, and you could not get a car in there. Could not get a car in there. Apparently, I thought it must be free that day, but it wasn't. It's just that popular. We also have affordable computer repairs out on Cloverdale Road, Bankhead Technologies on Seminary Street, Barbering by Missy on Cox Creek, Rejoice Dance Studio on College Street, and Foxtrot Family Law on Court Street. And there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are in the coming soon category. And I would like to end with reminding everyone to please bring in your pets tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Bill Griffin, District 3. If you'd like to talk to me, call me at 335-6575. Mr. Rivers, I enjoyed our meeting together. The explanation, if I'm correct, currently we're 40% minority in District 1, and it would be raised until 43.
With my map correct.
And I was amazed at what you accomplished. And then I found out you bought some software to do it. So you're not that much smarter than me. I could buy some software too, but you did an outstanding job. That was great. Tonight again, I did not vote no, but we didn't bring it up on the removal of the parking deck. I will vote to remove the parking deck when I have a clear vision with the direction of our new city hall. Because when we voted to tear down the parking deck, we were gonna build a city hall on this side of the street. And since then, that looks like it's gonna change. We don't have a in-stone decision how we're gonna do the parking deck yet. But as soon as that vision is clear of what we're going to do, I will become the fourth vote to take down the parking deck. It's going to happen. I just want to make sure that I know exactly where we're going with City Hall. Mr. White, I will probably disappoint you again before August 26th. I will try not to. We've had a couple of fires in the city since the cold streak has come in. Please be very careful. I know some of our homes are not heated as well as others. Please heed the warnings on extension cords about what you do with that. We don't want to have another fire in the city of Florence because I know you're cold, I understand that. But try to find an alternative way. There was a time when I was on the road traveling for a group, and we came into Florence and stayed for 4 weeks. And we happened to stay with my wife's grandmother. And we were given a room that had no heat. And when I peeled the covers back and crawled in, it would feel like they were wet. It was so cold. But we made sure we didn't do something dangerous with the heater. So please, take as many precautions as you can. At last, I was waiting to get a flat tire fixed today. I've been riding around with the screw in my tire for 6 months. And I knew that if I put air in it, it'd last me 2 weeks. And I did this every 2 weeks for 6 months. Until this morning I came out and my tire was flat. So now I must act on it. Even though my wife told me every 2 weeks for 6 months. And while I was sitting today, I have a card that describes some goals I have in life. And I handed a card to someone. And his response was similar to one of our speakers tonight. He said, all politicians are corrupt. And this had nothing to do with our speaker tonight because this happened earlier in the day. And I didn't argue, I didn't say anything. Matter of fact, I'd laid my card on the desk, so I picked it up and I put it back in my pocket. And as I drove home, I wondered if the reason John Q. Public thinks all politicians are corrupt is number one, they are corrupt, or number two, because I think differently than you. Thinking differently than you does not make me corrupt. And I give you my phone number every council meeting, hoping that one day you will stop making snide comments on Facebook and you'll become a man or a woman and pick up your phone and call me and say, why did you vote this way, or why do you think this way? And when I don't respond to your post, it's because I'm not going to argue with you in a forum full of idiots. You can always hide behind a name other than your own. You just create something. So if you want to talk to me and you agree with me, please call me. If you would disagree with me, please call me. I don't just give you my phone number because I like it. I give it to you because I'm trying to be open and transparent with the people of this city. And we may disagree, but one of us may be wrong. And I'm big enough to say I'm not always right. Just show me how I'm wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's coming out and braving the cold on tonight. Thank everybody for coming up, sharing their opinions. I have to agree with a portion of what Mr. Griffin said. Just because you don't agree with our decisions or our opinions, that doesn't mean that our opinions are wrong. It just means that we have a difference of opinion. So you respect mine, I respect yours. But if you don't respect mine, I'm gonna still do what I have been called and elected by the citizens of District 1 to do. One thing about me, I do have a heart for the people, whether one agree with the decisions or not. As far as the parking deck, I'm sure it's gonna come down, but it's gonna, and thank you, Mr. Hendricks, for what you're saying, giving us the time to get all of our questions and not do our due diligence. I just think that's just respectful for everybody, because everybody's opinion, as I often state, it is valued and it is appreciated, and everybody have one. So the time that we take, because you may know that answer in your different various meetings, doesn't mean that we have all those answers. So do the respectful thing and allow us to get what we need to move forward. That's the only way the council is gonna move forward, is to respect one another's opinion and hear their ideas and their thoughts as well. On February the 15th, we'll be hosting the 3rd annual show Scale Back. Everybody please make plans to come, to be a healthy you. Health is our wealth. It's gonna be held at the Coach Harvest Mitchell Gym, formerly Burroughs Slater, 610 West College Street, right here in Florence. It is a free event, a free service that we're giving to the public, put on by yours truly, myself, nurse practitioner Ms. Susan Bentley, Dr. Javar, Maya Jones, and also the City of Florence Park and Recreation. And as the parking deck also, let me go back to that, there are signs up there that states no trespassing. And I believe that when we didn't move forward, I think Mr. Musgrove, I think he said that the city was not necessarily liable for that, because we got those signs up there. So it's gonna happen, but it happened once, since we're the three, sounds like everybody's saying that we're hanging it up, we get those answers and we will move forward. I do agree, I want a plan of action, but I've told you all that numerous of times, but it takes a whole 6 council members' plan of action, not 2, 3, or 4. And at that time, we'll have a closing prayer by Mr. Griffin. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for your love. Father, just pray that you would teach myself especially to serve humbly with open ears and an open heart to lead this city. Thank you for where we've come from in the past. Thank you for the goals we have for the future. We just love you, Jesus. Amen.